The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sickly glow over the empty aisles of the gas station. Alex leaned against the counter, eyes flicking to the clock on the wall. 11:47 p.m. Just 13 more minutes, and he could lock up, head home, and forget the unsettling quiet of the night shift. He never liked working alone. There was something about this place after dark. The way the glass windows reflected the empty parking lot like a dark void. The way the coolers hummed too loudly in the silence. The way the wind outside sometimes sounded like whispering. It was always worst around midnight. The bell above the door suddenly chimed. Alex jerked upright, heart thudding against his ribs. He hadn't heard a car pull up. No headlights had cut through the dark. But someone was here. A man stood just inside the doorway, his face hidden beneath the shadow of a hood. His long, tattered coat hung off his frame, like it belonged to someone else, the fabric stained and frayed at the edges. He didn't move right away. He just stood there, letting the door shut behind him with a soft click. Alex cleared his throat. Evening. Can I help you? The man moved, not walking so much as gliding forward, his feet barely making a sound against the tile. He didn't look at the shelves, didn't glance at the coolers or the candy racks. He just made a straight line for the counter, stopping so close that Alex could see the way his coat sleeves hung just a little too long, hiding his hands. The air around him felt wrong. It was subtle at first, like the temperature had dropped just a few degrees. But as the seconds dragged on, the chill dug into Alex's skin, sinking into his bones. A damp, musty scent filled his nose. Not sweat, not gasoline, but something worse. Something old. The man tilted his head slightly. When he spoke, his voice was dry, rasping, like something long dead, trying to remember how to talk. What time do you close? Alex swallowed. His throat was dry. Midnight. The man didn't blink, didn't react at all. The seconds stretched. Then, slowly, one of his hidden hands rose from beneath the coat. Alex tensed, every nerve in his body screaming at him to move, to run, to do anything but stand there. But the man didn't pull out a weapon. He didn't reach for anything on the counter. Instead, he lifted his hand, thin, almost skeletal fingers peeking from the oversized sleeve, and pointed. Not at Alex, not at the register, but at the security camera behind him. You should check the footage, the man murmured. Alex's stomach twisted into a knot. What? The man's lips curled into the faintest hint of a smile. A cold, humorless thing that barely touched his hollow expression. You won't be alone. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away, his coat swaying with his movements. The bell above the door gave a soft chime as he stepped outside. Alex exhaled, the tension releasing from his body all at once. He hadn't even realized he'd been holding his breath. He hurried to the window, expecting to see the man climbing into a car, walking across the lot. Something. But the lot was empty. No footprints in the thin layers of dust outside, no sign of movement down the road. He was just gone. A deep sense of unease settled in Alex's chest. His hands felt clammy as he reached for the store's security monitor, fingers hesitating over the rewind button. Something told him he didn't want to see what was on that tape, but he had to know. The screen flickered as the footage rewound. He watched the empty store. The clock ticked back. Then, the door opened. The bell chimed, and he saw himself standing at the counter, talking to no one. There was no man in the footage, No tattered coat, no shadowed face, just Alex, staring at empty space, responding to a voice that wasn't there. His breath came quicker now. His fingers hovered over the pause button, his pulse pounding so loud he almost didn't hear the soft static buzzing through the speakers. Then, the footage flickered, and for the briefest second, Alex saw something new, a shape standing just behind him, a hooded figure inches from his shoulder, its face twisted into a wide, gaping grin. The screen cut to black. Alex spun around, his breath catching in his throat. The store was empty. The bell hadn't chimed. The door hadn't moved. But the air behind him felt colder. And somewhere, just behind his ear, he swore he heard breathing. I never liked being home alone. It wasn't that I was scared of the dark or afraid of silence. It was the little sounds that got to me, the ones that shouldn't be there. The quiet creak of a floorboard when no one is walking. The barely audible shuffle of movement just outside my bedroom door. The ones you can almost convince yourself are in your head. Almost. That night was no different. It was just after 11 p.m. and I was stretched out on a couch, half watching some late-night horror movie with the volume turned low. Rain pattered softly against the windows, and the house was quiet. Too quiet. My parents were out of town for the weekend, which meant I had the place to myself. No big deal. I'd done it before. But as I lay there, the familiar unease started creeping in. Then, it happened. A sound. A faint, deliberate creak from upstairs. I froze. My house was old. Old enough that it made noises when the temperature changed. Old enough that I could usually explain away the occasional pop or groan of settling wood, but this was different. This was footsteps. Slow, measured, moving from one end of the upstairs hallway to the other. I muted the TV, my breath catching in my throat. I strained my ears, waiting, listening. Nothing. I exhaled. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was just the house shifting after all. Then, another creak. Closer this time, right outside my bedroom door. My stomach twisted. I wasn't in my room. I was downstairs. My door should have been closed. Someone was up there. I sat up slowly, every nerve in my body screaming at me to move, to do something. But I couldn't. I was frozen, staring at the ceiling, following the sound in my head. Creak! It wasn't random anymore. It was pacing. Back and forth, back and forth. Then silence. The kind that presses in on you, thick and suffocating. I swallowed hard, my mind racing. I didn't hear a door open. I didn't hear anything come down the stairs. But I needed to check. I reached for my phone. My hands were shaking. I pulled up the camera app and switched it to video, flipping it to face the staircase. I hit record. The dim glow of my phone screen barely illuminated the bottom of the stairs. Beyond that, the hallway was pitch black. I stared, waited. Then, a shadow moved at the top of the stairs. I stopped breathing. The darkness shifted. Just slightly. Like something standing there, watching, waiting. I didn't want to believe it. My mind scrambled for an explanation. Maybe a trick of the light, maybe my eyes playing games with me. But then, in the dim glow of my phone screen, I saw it. A hand. Pale fingers curling around the banister. Slowly. Deliberately. Whoever it was. Whatever it was. was still up there, and it knew I was watching. I bolted. I didn't think. I didn't stop to grab anything. I just ran. Through the living room, past the kitchen, straight to the front door. I yanked it open, stepping into the cold, rain-soaked night, gasping for air. I turned back, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. The staircase was empty. No shadow, no hand, but the house felt different. Like something was still watching me from the darkness, just beyond the edge of the light. I never saw it again, but I never stayed home alone after that, either. And to this day, when I pass by the stairs at night, I can't help but glance up, just to make sure nothing is there. Because sometimes the scariest thing isn't what you see. It's knowing that something sees you